Hello, everybody. I know that a lot of you are aware that Eric Whitacre and the Eric Whitacre Singers were doing a tour around parts of the United States the last few weeks. Their final stop was in St. Paul, Minnesota, this past Thursday. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend that one. That was the first time I had ever been able to make it to anything of Eric's, and I was pretty excited to go. And as it turned out, there was going to be a possibility that I would get to meet Eric, which is something I've wanted to do for the last 4 years. So I was really excited about that. I met up with Steve and Heather in Omaha, and we rode up there together. And I am not going to even attempt to pronounce Steve's last name, but anyway, he was part of VC3 and 4 actually. And I connected with him in VC4. So and actually this is the first time that he and I had met. So we ended up riding up together. I had made contact with Meg beforehand to see if there was a possibility of actually meeting Eric. I hadn't seen anything about a meet and greet or anything like that, and as it turned out, his time was going to be pretty tight on this particular stop. So she was working to try to arrange something so that we could at least have a few minutes. So all the way up there, I didn't know for sure if it was going to happen, but I hoped it would. My feelings leading up to going up there were, I feel kind of foolish now about it. What I was feeling was that if I didn't get the chance to meet Eric, for me that was about a 1,000-mile round trip and 16 hours on the road, and that if I didn't get to meet Eric, boy, that would just be a whole waste of that time and mileage. I was wrong. We got up when we got up there. We got to the venue early and got some good parking right across the street from the door, actually. And so that I thought that was pretty nice. We got in there, and it's in the St. Paul Cathedral is just, you can't describe it. I took a couple of pictures while I was in there, and one or two from the outside, and I realized you can't capture this thing in a picture. So I didn't even bother to take any more. But like I say, I was under the impression in my own mind that meeting Eric was the big thing. Just to be able to thank him in person for all that's happened to me in the last 4 years since VC4. And I thought that right up until I heard the first notes of the first song. And realized right then that hearing this music from these singers, especially in that venue, that's what it was about. And that if I got to meet Eric, that would be icing on the cake. But and any of you who have heard them live, or have heard any good music live, are well aware of what I mean. I think that the experience of hearing that's what it was all about. And I didn't understand that until I understood it right away as soon as I heard him, but I didn't until then. So as it turned out, actually I got a text message from Meg during the last song, telling me where I needed to go after. Actually, Steve and I needed to go after the concert was over, and spend a little time with Eric before he had to take off, because he had to leave early the next morning. So there wasn't going to be a lot of time, but she had made arrangements, and I have to thank her very much for that. There were a lot of exciting things happen in addition to all that. One, I got to meet two other fellow VCers. That was Brian Jensen and Camille, who from Iowa, and I'd known both of them through Facebook and VC Friends for quite some time. And just so happened that Brian was sitting almost right in front of me, and he recognized me, so he came over and we visited a little bit. And then it turns out that let's see, let me check. I got to check my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. For those of you who know who Dale Warland is, turns out he was sitting directly behind me. I didn't speak with him. He had a lot of other people who were more familiar with him. They kept coming over and introducing themselves and talking to him. So he had plenty going on. But after when I read up on his connection with Eric, that was kind of exciting, just having him right there listening with me. There was a gentleman sitting next to me. He and his granddaughter had brought him to the concert, and he knew of Eric, but he, somehow managed never to have heard of virtual choir before. So I talked to him a little bit about that, explained how that worked, and he was pretty excited about that, and he was going to look it up on YouTube and check out what that was all about. He turned to his granddaughter and started explaining it to her, and said, "Well, I know all about that." So apparently he was the only one in the dark. But that was kind of fun. All things considered, it was just an incredible experience. Meeting the people that I've known for a while, that I hadn't actually met in person, and experiencing this music live that I'd heard. Most of the music in the concert I had heard recordings of, but I'd never really heard it before. And those of you who have gone to more of these concerts than I have understand what I'm saying. there's no comparison. So that it was all, it was well worth any effort that was put into it. So that's basically what I wanted to pass on, and I thought I could do it better this way than writing it down. And hopefully I didn't forget anything, but I want to again thank Steve and Heather for having some, so that I had some company on the way up there, and had an enjoyable drive up and back, or I enjoyed it anyway. I hope they did. I want to also again thank Meg for making arrangements, and especially thank Eric for everything that's happened music-wise for me, and friendships that I've made over the last 4 years since I stumbled across virtual choir. Basically, it's been quite a ride. It was a thrill to be able to shake your hand and thank you in person. And one thing I really didn't want to do, but I really didn't have it. I just felt like I didn't have a choice. I told, well, after we visited for a while, I said, I pulled out a notebook I had with me, and I said, you know, I really don't want to be this guy, but for just a minute I got to be this guy. And I've been working on recording a multi-track of Seal Lullaby for about 2 years now. And after quitting 42 years of smoking, I finally have the proper range to be able to do that. And I explained a little bit of that to him and said, you know, I'm trying to record this, and I just happened to have my copy of the Seal Lullaby with me, and asked him to sign it, and he was gracious enough to do that. So he was very generous with his time, and I appreciate that. So that's what I have to say about it. And I thank you all who were on the ride along with us. It was a lot of fun, and I know that I wasn't. There were a lot of comments and posts on Facebook about it, and I know I didn't respond to very much. Two reasons. One, I was kind of overwhelmed with the how I felt about the concert and everything that was going on. And the other thing was, I only had my phone with me, and I hate getting on Facebook on my phone. So I hope you'll forgive me for not responding earlier or almost at all. But I hope you'll accept this as my response. So I hope you all have a good day, and I hope you all get the chance at some point to do what I was able to do this week. So I will talk to y'all later. Bye.